Donald Trump returned to office with unusually high policy velocity. Within days of inauguration, the administration relied heavily on executive orders, signaling that the priority was speed rather than consensus. A large number of Biden era policies were rescinded or frozen, particularly those tied to climate regulation, DEI programs, immigration guidance, and federal agency mandates. These moves were less about introducing brand new frameworks and more about reversing direction quickly. The message to markets, agencies, and foreign governments was clear early. Rules were changing, and they were changing fast. By late winter, executive orders expanded into speech and social policy. The administration issued orders restricting federal involvement in content moderation, framing it as a free speech issue and ordering investigations into prior government platform coordination. At the same time, federal definitions of sex were standardized across agencies, affecting healthcare guidance, education policy, and funding eligibility. Gender affirming care for minors were restricted at the federal level. Public broadcasting funding also came under pressure, with NPR and PBS targeted for budget cuts or rescissions. These actions sparked immediate legal challenges, many of which moved into federal courts and slowed or partially blocked implementation. What stood out was not just the substance, but the breadth. Social, cultural, regulatory, and institutional changes were all moving simultaneously. In the spring, trade policy re entered center stage. The administration imposed new tariffs on imports from China, Mexico, and Canada, using executive authority rather than congressional negotiation. These tariffs took effect quickly and prompted retaliatory responses from trading partners. Unlike past trade disputes that unfolded slowly through multilateral talks, 2025 trade actions were immediate and unilateral, reintroducing uncertainty into supply chains and price expectations. Businesses adjusted not because they agreed with the policy, but because incentives had changed overnight. By mid-year, attention shifted to government spending. Congress passed and Trump signed the Rescissions Act of 2025, which clawed back roughly $9 billion in previously approved funding. Cuts targeted foreign aid programs and public broadcasting, among others. This was one of the few major legislative actions of the year, standing out precisely because so much else was executive driven. At the same time, the administration pushed restructuring within the federal workforce, seeking to reduce bureaucracy and consolidate agency power. These efforts, again, triggered lawsuits and resistance from unions and institutions. Defense policy became more visible as the year progressed. Military pay initiatives were announced, including a one-time payment to service members framed as recognition for debt readiness and sacrifice. Symbolically, this coincided with broader messaging about strength and deterrence. Meanwhile, foreign policy tensions rose, particularly involving Venezuela. The U.S. escalated pressure through maritime enforcement and oil shipment restrictions, raising the possibility of broader confrontation. While not a declared war, it marked one of the most aggressive foreign policy postures of the year. Later in the year, the administration moved to reschedule cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. This was one of the more unexpected and broadly bipartisan welcomed actions, especially among businesses. While not legalization, the change materially affected taxations, banking access, and regulatory burdens for cannabis companies. Compared to other 2025 actions, this move was practical, targeted, and economic rather than ideological. As the year closed, unresolved legal battles accumulated. Federal courts continued to review executive actions from early in the year, blocking some, delaying others, and allowing a few to proceed. The administration appealed the rulings related to frozen research funding, including high-profile cases involving major universities. Public debate intensified around transparency, Justice Department actions, and institutional trust. Economically, job growth was weaker than many had expected, and optimism about rapid rebound softened. 2025 was not defined by one law, one war, or one market crash. It was defined by speed over process, executive authority over legislation, policy signaling over long-term resolution. Many actions change incentives immediately, even if their permanence remains unresolved. Courts, future administrations, and markets will determine which changes endure. Despite all the motion, federal debt trajectories remained intact. Interest obligations continued rising. Structural deficits and demographics were untouched. The machinery moved loudly, but the foundation stayed the same.